Sorry, it wasn't recording before, so I have to start all over again. Hello, everyone. I'm Dustin Benzel, and welcome to another Pokemon XY anime discussion. Today, we're going to talk about the introduction, the new updated introduction. I'm sorry. I thought I was recording before, and I had like a few minutes of content, and then I looked down at my record time, and it said 0 all the way through. I'm not even mad because that was amusing, because I was not recording at all during that whole entire time. It's like if I wasn't recording right now, which it actually is recording, it would seem like I'm just like talking to no one. It'd be like, what's Dustin talking to? It's not recording, so what is he doing? No. So anyway, sorry. That was such an amusing moment to realize that I wasn't recording. Anyway, we're going to talk about the updated intro. We're going to talk about the upcoming episodes trailer. We're going to talk about a little bit more about the episodes themselves. I don't quite know if there is any new information. I get a lot of my sources from maybe other videos that I've watched on YouTube, people talking about it, or even mostly from the forums, Cerebi forums, Bulbapedia. So if there is something that I neglected to talk about in regards to the upcoming episodes, I truly apologize. So let's jump into the introduction, the opening, the updated opening that aired today, actually, as of this recording anyway. What we see here is that Ash is confirmed without an absolute doubt. He is getting Noibat, and there will be images over here showing you this confirmation. And if the one shot where Ash sends out all his Pokemon with Noibat isn't enough, there is an upcoming scenes from the Noibat episode, I believe, where Noibat is sitting in Ash's lap. So all of you who want to still deny Ash with Noibat, I'm not sure why you want to continue denying it. It's pretty much confirmed. But I don't want to talk about Noibat real quick. I want to talk about Eevee a lot right now because there's some interesting things about Eevee that I want to discuss. But before I quite get into Eevee, just to let you know that there were some interesting changes within the opening that will explain. The Ramos, Olympia, or Valerie and Olympia shots within the original opening have been a little bit updated, so they're a little bit more dynamic. I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to show you all the differences, but I'm going to show you like whichever one like pops out the most, Ramos, and compare it to the original version, and you'll see it over here somewhere. There is a surprising character that was added to the opening if you haven't already seen it. So let's jump into Eevee real quick. Now, the opening, up until the near end of the opening, did not have Serena with Eevee. When Cerebi basically said, or when I went to Cerebi, .net, the main web page, and it said that Eevee was confirmed to be with Serena. And in the beginning, when I watched the updated opening, I was a little confused as to why Eevee wasn't showing up in particular scenes that ordinarily Eevee would have shown up in. But I think there's a reason why. But it was the ending. I think it was pretty much the end of the intro, not quite the end, but very close to the end of the updated opening, that we actually get to see Eevee frolicking in Pokethalon or Pokemon Showcase clothing or whatever, and just being so adorable. And then we have a shot of Serena just watching. You'll see a few shots of those, but I'm not heavy because there's still a lot of content to go over. And so yeah. And I have to say that Eevee was absolutely adorable in the opening, and I have to say that for me, seeing Eevee like that and just thinking of Serena, I think that the writers did make a good choice on giving Eevee to Serena, you know. However, if Eevee evolves into Espeon, I'm quitting the anime. No, I'm just kidding, but I'll be really upset, because no one on the main cast should ever have an Espeon except Ash. That is my favorite evolution for Ash. They can give her Sylveon, Flareon, Jolteon. They can give her any other evolution except Espeon. But that's just me, just being bitter if they were ever to do that. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's basically possible that Serena's going to have a Sylveon. The interesting thing is, though, that what's interesting about this is that Valerie is going to show up with Sylveon before this, and Serena has already seen Sylveon as well. She should have, with the Froakie Sylveon episode with that kid that was afraid of Pokemon because there was some misunderstanding of some sort, where a Pokemon was trying to protect him, but he thought it was trying to attack him, and he was afraid. So remember that episode, that kindergarten episode, where I think her name was Premiere. I think that was her dubbed name or Japanese name or whatever. And so she's seen Sylveon there, and what's interesting is she's going to see Sylveon in a more battling sort of way with Valerie, and that a few episodes after Valerie, most likely after the movie, that's when Serena's going to get her own Eevee. So it's weird that Valerie basically showcased Sylveon so much that they decided that they were just going to give Sylveon to Serena. But anyway, what was I going to say about that? Hold on. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So like I said, the gym leaders within the opening, with the exception of Clement, the ones that had that colorful background, showed them and showed their main Pokemon, has been updated. It's a lot more dynamic. It's better. I saw a video already discussing about this, about how why is Ramos still in the opening. Well, I think it's because of that new change within the opening and how much more dynamic and better looking the introduction of those gym leaders are. Ramos, Valerie, and Olympia. They have this really cool shard of glass, you could say, or crystal, or however you want to describe it, of coming into view, and it has like a picture of them and their Pokemon. And you'll see comparison shots. Not all of them, but you'll see them. You'll see at least one comparison shot of the original opening to the new opening in regards to that. Okay. So outside of Noibat, Eevee, and the gym changes, there is one big change within the opening that needs to be addressed, and that is an amazing shot that you'll see, and it has Ash and Elaine, or Alan, or Elaine, or however you want to pronounce his name. And what's interesting about this shot is that there's this divider between them, and they've got their hands up with each other like this, which you'll see, and that's very interesting because it seems like they're gonna connect the stories between the Mega Evolution specials and the main XY anime, and we're gonna probably see Ash and Elaine in an episode together really soon. But the interesting thing is the symbolism about this particular episode, or not episode, but the scene within the opening, is that the symbolism of Ash and Elaine touching basically hands amongst the divider is very interesting and very it kind of how do I put this? It's very interesting to see, and it's very, I guess, confusing in a way, because I'm not sure what it means or what it might mean. I don't know if it's that Elaine is older than Ash or whatever it is, and Ash looks forward to Elaine, and Elaine is reminded by Ash maybe by a younger version of himself or whatever, and they respect each other. But to me, it almost seems like they're almost like brothers or something, or it seems like there's like a familial connection there, but I'm probably wrong. That'd be kind of weird in all kinds of ways if it was the case. But yeah, it's just an interesting thing to see this, that that image is there. It's very weird, and maybe you can try to understand it when you see the picture. I'm pretty sure I've already shown you the picture, but anyway. Yeah, so it's very interesting that picture looks the way that it is. It's going to take a while for me to figure it out of why they decided to show that particular scene within the opening. But yeah, anyway, so outside of that, I really don't think the opening has any other discussion that we need to talk about. Uh, Gumi, so the Gumi evolving into Gudra was replaced with a shot of Noibat, which you might see. Outside of that, really wasn't anything to talk about. It was just mostly that Eevee shot, which was amazing and adorable, as I said. I'm going to leave Noibat for later in this particular video, so let's talk about the upcoming episodes and some information about the future episodes that are coming up. So the first episode, since the Meowth and Bonnie episode has come out, I haven't seen it. I don't know if I'm really going to want to watch the episode because it's not really an episode that I'm really want to see based on the images, but it's really interesting how the Pokemon divided. There may be some images, but if I remember seeing the images of the episode, if I'm not mistaken, Braixen was with Clement, I believe, and maybe another Pokemon. Can't remember. Ash was with Pancham. Froakie, I think, was with Serena, and Serena was also with Chespin and some other Pokemon possibly. And then Hawlucha, Fletchinder, and Luxray were together, and Meowth and Bonnie were together. I don't know if there's a Pokemon I'm missing. Oh, Bunnelby. I think Bunnelby was with Serena too. I think Ash was only with Pancham. Clement was with Braixen. I don't think there was anything else there. And Serena was with like Bunnelby. Maybe Chespin and Frogdeer. I don't know. You'll see the images of the groupings up a little bit of it, and you'll see that it's very interesting that it was divided the way that it was, you know. Just for clarification case, because I was actually surprised when I actually looked to see what Pokemon were in that episode. I was actually surprised that all of the Pokemon showed up, because I thought it was just going to be a very limited version of a separation episode that has happened. I'm not going to say the episode looks completely boring, but, you know, whatever. After that, of course, which we got a preview of, is the spooky episode. By the way, in the opening, there is a shot that I need to address, and it's Gengar that's messing around with Ash. I wonder if that's called back to the Kanto episode where Ash and Pikachu were separated from their bodies from a spirit perspective or whatever. And I wonder if that's somehow calling back. Because in the opening, you see Gengar messing with Ash, doing weird things, going through Ash's body in a ethereal kind of way. So it'll be interesting to see how this episode is. The preview for the Spooky House doesn't look all that interesting. It doesn't exactly point to Jesse's Pumpkaboo evolving, so it may seem that Pumpkaboo will have to wait until a later episode to evolve. Maybe sometime around the Pokemon showcases or something of that nature. Maybe we'll get a Gourgeist then. After that particular episode is then, let's see, let me look it up real quick. So 73 is, of course, the Bagon versus Spritzy episode. While it's not absolutely confirmed, I think a lot of fans who've been paying attention to the spoilers, at least there is some speculation or theory that Bagon does belong to Shota, and that Shota will in some fashion battle Valerie in episode 73. So that's something to look forward to. Then we get into a really amazing thing. By the way, the upcoming episode trailers are just going to fit pretty much in these particular episodes that we know, except for the some shots that can't be explained easily. Let's see, where are we? So, episode 73, like I said, possibly Valerie versus Shota, Bagon versus Spritzy, and then episode 74 is pretty much the gym battle. We have not gotten any sort of confirmation one way or another if Ash is going to win or lose that battle. It doesn't seem likely that Ash is going to lose that battle, but who knows what's going to happen. But the interesting thing is we did get some scenes within the gym battle that we saw that are very notable. The interesting thing that is notable is that while we still don't know who Ash's second Pokemon within, yeah, I still don't like the fact that it's a 2 versus 2, but the most interesting thing about the trailer is in the upcoming episodes there was a scene that portrayed Fletchinder in a very promising light. It seems Fletchinder is going to do amazing in this episode. Possibly that might even imply that Ash won't even have the need to use a second Pokemon. Now, if Fletchinder does beat both Sylveon and Spritzy all by itself, I will give major props to the writers. However, the problem that I have is that if for whatever reason Frogadier is going to evolve before Olympia to be used against Olympia, this was the last gym that Frogadier could have by itself, because if it goes against Olympia as a Frogadier, it's probably not going to do as well if it was a Greninja instead. Wolfric, while Greninja wouldn't have a major advantage over against Wolfric, it would still be resistant to ice types, and even though that would apply to Frogadier as well, it's just that I think by Wolfric we really probably need to see a Greninja on Ash's team if Ash is getting a Greninja. But I guess we'll see then. But anyway, back to Lavera Gym against Valerie. What's really nice is Fletchinder is being portrayed as an awesome Pokemon. Probably, I think Talonflame, if it happens, most likely it will happen, will be probably one of the favorite bird Pokemon that Ash has ever had. You know, they dropped the ball with Unfezant. I really like Staraptor. Swellow was fine. Noctowl got semi-redeemed within the Sinnoh League, learning Extrasensory and Air Slash and Sky Attack. Pidgeot's long gone, even though it was an amazing Pokemon. It's long gone. So it's really nice to see Fletchinder being portrayed as an amazing Pokemon within this gym battle, because you'll see a little bit of the scene in terms of picture form, but you'll see ribbons wrapped around Fletchinder, and that'll be Sylveon is its opponent, which means that Fletchinder seems likely to at least beat one of Valerie's Pokemon, and I have a feeling based on Spritzy being Valerie's main Pokemon, it seems very likely that Fletchinder will indeed beat Sylveon, especially even though Fletchinder is wrapped in those ribbons. In the scene, what happens is it seems that Ash uses a combination of Peck and Flame Charge, and as like a flaming fast arrow seems to be about to strike Sylveon. We don't actually get to see the impact, but if it does make an impact, I feel like that might be the ending shot where Ash might beat Sylveon, and if Spritzy is the next Pokemon after that, then it'll probably be then that Ash will have trouble. So at the very least, I do expect Fletchinder to beat Sylveon within the gym battle, but I'm going to have to wait until more information is revealed and we get a trailer. Maybe we'll see Ash's second Pokemon, and if there is no second Pokemon, then expect, if Ash does beat Valerie, for Fletchinder to beat both Sylveon and Spritzy. So that'll be interesting to see. Fletchinder sweeping the entire team of Valerie, because that would be a nice choice, because after Valerie, there's really not going to be any other gym for Fletchinder / Talonflame. Now, it could still be used against Wolfric, but until Ash has a full team, I'm not really sure I'm confident on deciding what Ash is going to use against Wolfric. So, anyway, that covers that particular episode. After that, we run into the Shota versus Ash episode. It's a series of 1 versus 1s. I'm pretty sure If not in a video in the forums, I've explained that I always will prefer 3-on-3s over series 3 1 versus 1s, because if it is the best of 3, Ash has to lose a Pokemon. If it was a 3-on-3, then Ash's Pokemon could all get a win, and Shota's Pokemon could still beat at least Ash's Pokemon. But if it's going to be a best of 3 1 versus 1s, then Ash is going to lose one of the battle. I talked about this in the episode discussion on Bulba Garden, and if you want to see it there, you can go there. But I said that there's not really any Pokemon, with the exception of Pikachu, because Pikachu could always get wins, so why not throw in a couple of losses for it, just to make sure that Ash's other Pokemon can get at least a little redemption, or they don't get horribly screwed over, basically. The thing that I hate is, though, that this happened before Noibat. I would have been fine with Noibat losing, given that it has trouble, but we're still not quite there. But we're still not discussing Noibat completely, but yeah, like I said, it would have been better if this particular 1 versus 1s happened after Noibat's capture. But there is some interesting things. So, but before I quite get into what's revealed based on the upcoming episode's preview, like I said, there's nothing really that I want to lose. If Fletchinder loses, if Fletchinder is used and loses, I feel like that's going to completely undermine its amazing victory in Lavera Gym. Because it's pretty much a guarantee that Fletchinder should at least beat one of Valerie's Pokemon if it's being used against both Sylveon as well as Spritzy. So at the very least, it is beating one of Valerie's Pokemon. So I feel like its win in the gym would be undermined if Fletchinder won. Hawlucha, I don't want it to lose for the simple fact that Hawlucha just did a great against Heliolisk. I feel like Hawlucha needs to win at least another battle before losing, as a result, to make up for the fact that it lost horribly against Weeping Bell. Weeping Bell, or is it Weeping Bell? Might be Weeping Bell, but maybe it's Weeping Bell. Hold on. Yeah, it's Weeping Bell. Okay, so sorry. I usually know how to spell Pokemon. It's just that one's a very weird one. Just like Victory Bell and for Alligator having missing letters, so that's why I was a little confused there. So yeah, so I still don't want Hawlucha to lose yet. And now you would think, well, then what about Frogadier? The only reason why I don't want Frogadier to lose as well is because it really hasn't gotten anything since Ramos. Hawlucha had Heliolisk, Fletchinder is going to get something of Valerie, and Frogadier has not been used very much. And in the preview, Frogadier is confirmed to be battling against Shota. The problem is, I just don't want to see Frogadier losing, you know. So Pikachu is my top contending Pokemon that has to lose in order for me to feel comfortable about Ash losing any battle. Now, they could still do a series of 3 1 versus 1s and Ash dominates Shota, and that would be perfectly fine, but I feel based on the I think it's because it's a best of 3, that means that Ash has to lose one of them. Otherwise, I wouldn't. This is why I hate 1 versus 1s so much, because if it is a best of 3, like we've seen in other things, that means one of Ash's Pokemon has to lose. And even though I feel like Ash is going to win the gym battle, or not the gym battle, but against Shota, I would have preferred a sweep kind of similar to Barry. I don't think, let's see. Pikachu beat Empoleon, Gliscor tied with Roselia, I think. Not Roselia, Roserade. And Chimchar beat Staraptor, I think. So I kind of want something like that. I want Ash to have a clear sweeping advantage over Shota, just because I don't want any of Ash's current Pokemon to lose. Like I said, if Ash had Noibat at this particular fight, I would be fine with Noibat losing because it would be its first battle. It would be an early Pokemon, a fresh Pokemon. It could afford the loss. I don't think outside of Pikachu, any Pokemon of Ashes can afford a loss. But maybe Fletchinder could lose. If Fletchinder does sweep Valerie, maybe I can understand Fletchinder losing. But anyway, but the most interesting thing is that it seems that within that episode, Shota's Trico is going to evolve into Grovyle. Because in the upcoming previews, we see Frogadier battling a Grovyle. Now, ordinarily, I probably would be fine, because when I made the speculation that I didn't want Frogadier to lose, I was trying to think of something that probably Frogadier could lose to. And while Grovyle, I can easily see Frogadier losing, based on the interesting note that it seems to be possibly the most important battle, I don't want Frogadier to lose, because this is basically between Hawlucha getting Heliolisk and Fletchinder getting the Laver Gym. This is Frogadier's most major battle since Ramos beating Weeping Bell and Go-Goat. So I don't want Frogadier to lose of all of Ash's Pokemon. Hawlucha could afford a loss, but I feel like considering that he gets a lot of unjustified flack within the community of Pokemon because it only has 3 moves. Oh yes, let's completely ignore the fact that it just beat Heliolisk against Clement. Whether or not you thought it was a legitimate win or not, it still beat Heliolisk. And people are saying Hawlucha has been completely snubbed by the writers, and I'm thinking, compared to Torkoal, Hawlucha has been excelling as a Pokemon. If Hawlucha is being snubbed and screwed over by the writers, I'm going to applaud the writers, because that's how you screw over a Pokemon. Torkoal was completely screwed over. Palpitoad was screwed over. If the writers screwed over Pokemon like they've apparently screwed over Hawlucha, I'm applauding them, because that's probably the best, because Hawlucha has gotten wins. Hawlucha has beaten Mienfoo, has beaten Heliolisk, and has been pretty much even with its win-loss ratio. It's had some big losses against Talonflame, but that made sense because Hawlucha isn't much of a flying Pokemon, and if Talonflame was forced to only battle on land, Hawlucha would have definitely beaten Talonflame. And then there's also against Weeping Bell, but I'm assuming they did that just so Frogadier can get 2 wins, because otherwise it would have been weird, I guess, or it would have been a little unfair to Frogadier, possibly, so that was understandable. But against Mienfoo, and against Heliolisk, it seems that if Hawlucha is being screwed over, it's being screwed over the right way, as opposed to the Palpitoad and Torkoal way. It still shows up quite frequently, so I'm just not sure where all these people are talking about that it's being screwed over by the writers, because in my opinion it's not. Based on the Laver Gym, before the Laver Gym, I probably would have said Fletchinder, because it's the only Pokemon of Ashes that has been without a personality. Frogadier doesn't always show a personality in the episodes that it shows up, but it definitely does have a noticeable personality. Fletchinder only shows personality when it wins at something. It only showed a little bit of personality when it beat Machoke against Korrina's Machoke, and when it beat Talonflame after it evolved. Those were the only instances that I saw that Fletchinder showed any sort of personality. So, personality-wise, I think Fletchinder is more screwed over than Hawlucha, but, whatever, but because of Laver Gym, I definitely don't think any Pokemon of Ashes so far has been screwed over. And no, I'm not counting Goodra. I want to count Goodra, but let's just move on from Goodra. Let's focus on Noibat. But still not quite there. One last thing that we have to address in the... well, actually, there's 2 things that we need to address. The next thing we have to address is, of course, Serena's next Pokemon Showcase, or next Pokethalon, depending on if you only watch the dub or the original Japanese version. there is some interesting shots in there. It seems that Serena is going to use both Braixen and Pancham against her in her Pokethalon coming up, Pokemon Showcase. What's more interesting thing is her design, her costume. It's really an interesting design. It kind of resembles Valerie in some way, as someone said. Maybe it was even KG Prestige or whatever. And then there was another comment, I think it was as well as KG Prestige, that said that Serena's dress kind of looks like Halucha as well, and Valerie or whatever. But you know, it's very interesting, and it would make sense that Serena would probably be inspired by Valerie because of episode 73 being based on a fashion show. Like I said, I don't know what a Pokemon fashion show is like. I don't know if it would be like what Alyssa from the 4th gen did. I don't think she was quite a fashion show, but Alyssa, I believe, was a model. I think that's what she was in the 4th gen. She was this extravagant model, especially in the sequels of Pokemon Black and White. I believe she was more of a model, but she definitely has some modeling aspects. But I don't know if that's kind of like the fashion show or if it's more Pokemon related. I don't know. Still have no information on that. But so it would make sense that Serena would be inspired by Valerie, because Valerie at least is implied to have something to do about showing off as a result of this fashion show that she's going to participate in episode 73. But we'll see what happens with that. So yeah, so again, it makes sense because Dawn was inspired a lot of times, you know, mostly with Ash. You know, Ash would do something, and I think Dawn was inspired by Ash a lot of times. Then other things would happen. You know, Ash was inspired by Serena, you know, so it's understandable that Serena probably would be inspired by Valerie, a gym leader that goes to fashion shows. So there's some inspiration of Valerie in there, but it's interesting that there is some inspiration of Halucha in there. You know, at a time when I only wanted Ash with Fletchender as a flying type because I didn't want doubling up on types, I actually did think that Serena possibly could have gotten Halucha. Not that it actually fit, but it's interesting that that's what I thought in the beginning, because I would have thought that of all the flying types, that possibly Serena with Halucha would have probably made a lot of sense. But I guess that was before we knew what her goal was going to be or her role within the anime, and possibly after having played one of the games with the Serena model and having my Serena model having a Noivern. It actually changed to Noibat Noivern, I believe. But now it's interesting that Serena has no flying Pokemon. I think that's really amusing, to be honest with you, because Ash, except Vivillon, although there was that one Vivillon that Ash bonded with, that pretty much Ash had all the flying types within 6th generation for the most part. I don't know if there's any, well, there is Eviltal, so maybe not, but most of the flying types within 6th generation have gone to Ash, which is hilarious, by the way. So, then there's one last thing before we need to talk about Noibat. There is one interesting scene. You'll see a little bit of it, but the interesting thing is, I think at the end of the preview, the upcoming previews, I think it was the end, Meowth is holding a Pokeball and recalling a Pokemon. Then the next shot we have is Pikachu looking confused. Now, I'm still waiting whether or not this has been confirmed or not, whether or not Meowth is trying to recall Pikachu to its Pokeball. One member on Bulba Garden, Dogasu, he was a admin for the Pokemon anime forums, and he has his own website. He does speak Japanese. He actually lives in Japan. Yeah, he lives in Japanese. No, he lives in Japan. I think he teaches English or something. And he said that that's not what was being shown. He still hasn't responded with why that wasn't implied and if it was just 2 shots. But under the speculation, that Meowth is recalling Pikachu to its Pokeball, that would be an amazing episode, because it would be the first time in a long time that Pikachu was ever inside its Pokeball. I don't know if Pikachu was inside a Pokeball in the first generation, or the first movie with Mewtwo and all of those clones, and Pikachu was in a Pokeball just to try to stay safe, or Pikachu was forced into Mewtwo's Pokeball to be cloned, or whatever the case was. But Pikachu has not been in a Pokeball in a very long time, if at all. So it'll be interesting to see Pikachu in a Pokeball. It would be interesting to see Pikachu being recalled. It'll be interesting to see if Pikachu has gotten over its fear of being in a Pokeball. Maybe it has become tolerant since then. Maybe it was overreacting in the beginning, you know, but it really never made any sense, that considering that Pokemon can release themselves from the Pokeball, you know, especially with Misty Psyduck, I think, proving this in the first generation, that Pikachu was in the Pokeball this whole entire time before Ash was given it. And then the moment that Ash sent Pikachu out and Pikachu was being nasty, that Pikachu has a trouble with Pokeballs. But maybe that's why it was nasty to Ash in the beginning, because it was in a Pokeball the whole entire time. But anyway, so that's pretty much it. It'll be interesting to see that actually happening. It'll be interesting to see Pikachu being recalled to its Pokeball, if that's actually what happened. Since I'm probably going to be editing this video before Dogasu responds with why he thinks that Pikachu is not being recalled to its Pokeball, I will put in the comments section what exactly happened there. So maybe the trailer said something about not Pikachu, or maybe it wasn't relevant. But anyway, for the final part of this video, I think I've discussed everything that I possibly can. There has been no title revealed for the Noibat episode, but at least we have confirmation of who it belongs to. The episodes after Noibat, there has not been anything relevant, nothing going on in the Starly episode as far as we know. I believe that's 77, and the last episode we know has a Meowth in it. The Meowth possibly recalling Pikachu, I think might be that episode, but it also might be the Pokemon Showcase if Jessie is going to use Meowth. But it's not confirmed, but well, I guess we'll see what happens. If anything is going to be the Pokemon Showcase episode, and if it's not the Meowth episode, I think it's going to be Starly. I think possibly it might be the Starly episode. But enough of that. Let's get into the discussion with Noibat. A lot of people are calling out Noibat as a clone of Gligar and Gliscor, because Gligar and Gliscor couldn't glide very well. It couldn't fly very well, and it was kind of a crybaby, and that's what seems to be portrayed within in consideration to Noibat. We have the shot that replaced Goomy evolving into Goodra's shot was replaced with Noibat flapping on to the ground and just tears flying around. Apparently it can't fly very well. And then in the upcoming preview, when Noibat was in Ash's lap, it was using some sort of loud attack. I don't know what Noibat can learn in terms of voice-related, sound-related moves, but it's definitely a Pokemon move that Noibat is using. Let me actually look it up real quick. I want to say Screech, but I forgot to look to see if Screech was actually a Pokemon move, because I was thinking about it, but I wasn't entirely sure. And even if Screech is, I'm not sure if Noibat can learn it. But then the only other move that it could be would be Supersonic, and I think Noibat can learn it, but I'm just not sure it would make sense to give Noibat Supersonic. Okay, it can learn Screech and Supersonic, so I think it's Screech, which will be interesting because Screech harshly reduces the defensive stats of the opponent. I don't know if that's going to be relevant to Noibat's other moves, but other moves that I would like to see Noibat with, if it is going to be Screech, Leech Life would be an interesting move. I don't care about Gust, although it's interesting that it can learn it, because strangely there are some bird Pokemon, regional bird Pokemon that can't learn it. I think Starly can't learn it. I don't know if Tailo can learn it. I don't know if Pidove can learn it, but no, Pidove can learn Gust, I believe, because didn't Ash's Pidove have Gust? Well, whatever the case may be. Bite would be okay, but only if it is going to be used against Olympia, which I hope it is, because otherwise Noibat is not going to be used for anything. Because I'm pretty sure it's not going to have any advantage whatsoever against Wolfric, except maybe Abomasnow. But Noibat beating Abomasnow would be very weird and ridiculous. There's Wing Attack. Not really looking forward to something like that. Agility. Now, there are two moves that are similar. There's Air Cutter, and then there's Air Slash. And I guess we'll throw Hurricane into this. Personally, I would prefer Hurricane, because that would definitely be a nice move for Noibat to learn. However, if it's between Air Slash and Air Cutter, I want Ash with Air Cutter. Because if I'm not mistaken, Ash has always used Air Slash. Let me look up Ash's Unfezant real quick, because it might have also learned Air Cutter. The 5th gen was notorious by switching the animations between Air Slash as... Okay, so it can learn Air Cutter. Yeah, when you saw Jesse's Woobat using Air Slash in comparison to Pidove using Air Cutter, it was very weird and odd. So, since Unfezant did have Air Cutter, I actually want Ash's Noibat to have Air Slash if it has to learn any of those moves. Like I said, they really mixed them up. Air Cutter would seem to be those saws that you saw Jesse's Woobat using within the 5th generation. And then Air Slash is what like you saw Pidove, Tranquil, and Unfezant using, and that's why I'm a little weird, because Air Cutter looks like, or Air Slash would look like it would do that, while Air Cutter would be what Jesse's Woobat did, but whatever. But as for other moves, it can actually learn some interesting moves. Oh wow. It can learn Solar Beam, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Brick Break. Shadow Ball would be useful against Olympia too, so maybe it'll have that instead. But only if Ash doesn't get Phantup or another Ghost-type Pokemon. There's X-Scissor, which would be better than Shadow Ball now that I think about it. There's U-Turn, which would be interesting. It can actually learn Wild Charge. That's nice. For Dragon types, I don't know if I want Dragon Pulse, but I would be okay with Dragon Pulse. Personally, I would prefer Outrage, since Ash has never had a Pokemon with Outrage. Gible had Draco Meteor. Gible also had Dragon Pulse along with Goodra. Noibat can't learn Dragon Breath, so if it has to have any Dragon type move, hopefully Outrage. But I won't be upset if it has Dragon Pulse or Draco Meteor. But anyway, so in response to people thinking that Noibat is going to be like Gligar and Gliscor, it kind of seems like they have similar stories. But I think Noibat is going to be a very baby Pokemon. I don't think it's going to be like Scraggy, because what the writers did with Scraggy was basically unacceptable. You don't give Ash an egg Pokemon and then hardly develop it, and it's still pretty much a baby at the end of this series. But and considering that I think Noibat might evolve into Noivern, I don't know if Noibat's baby characteristics are going to quite last very long, especially within the opening, or not the opening, the ending. Noibat seems to be flapping around. It is flapping around in the opening as well. So I don't think its crybaby characteristics are going to quite be a permanent characteristic to Noibat, just until Ash helps Noibat learn to fly, and I think that actually might all happen within the Noibat episode. I think Noibat is going to learn how to fly as a result of Ash helping Noibat, and that's why Ash might catch or Noibat, but I think Noibat's going to get away from that, so it's not going to be like Gligar or Gliscor when it has trouble flying. I think it's only going to be for that particular episode just so Ash can bond with Noibat, because he does have experience in helping a Pokemon fly, not just Gligar or Gliscor, but in 5th generation with an Archon or whatever, and it evolved into Archeops with a lot of help from Ash. So I feel like that might be the reason why Ash is getting Noibat, is because between Clement and Serena and Ash, as well as Jessie and James, Ash does have the most experience when it comes to flying Pokemon. He has, if you count Noibat, he has had 11 or 12 flying types within his entire team. Pidgeotto, Charizard, Butterfree, and the list goes on, and he's helped at least 2 flying types learn how to fly. You know, he helped Gligar and Gliscor a little bit before it evolved, and it could fly pretty much as well as it could. And then, but of course, it had to be released to an Air Master, so that might completely cut into my arguments, but whatever. And then there's the Archon episode where he was trying to help Archon learn how to fly, and Ash was determined to help Archon fly, and then it evolved into Archeops and stuff of that nature. So Ash does have experience, so that might be as simple as why Ash is getting a Noibat. Of course, the reason why Ash is getting a Noibat because the writer said he was, but I'm just speaking in universe. I think the reason why Noibat is getting attached and bonded with Ash, Noibat attached to Ash, is because Ash does have experience in this field. But I don't think it's going to go outside the beginning episode, so I think that it's all going to be resolved within that episode. One thing that I would really like to see is I want to see Noibat extremely happy while sitting on Ash's shoulders, like its belly on Ash's shoulders, and it's just hanging on Ash's shoulder and going, "Wah, Noibat, Noibat," or however Noibat will sound. I think that'll be cute and adorable, and if that ever happens, that's going to be the thumbnail. That's going to be the only thing you're going to see in the video that I shoot. I mean, Noibat could not have anything to do with an episode. If Noibat sits on Ash's shoulder in a happy and excited way, and it's a cute, adorable photo, even if the episode is about Serena's breaks and evolving, that's all what the thumbnail is going to be, is just that image. You're going to see it. It'd be like, wait a minute, Dustin's going to talk about Serena's breaks and evolving and Noibat's here? You're not even going to see me. Usually in my thumbnails you might see an image over here along with me, so you'll probably know what to expect within the episode. But for that particular episode, whatever it may be, even Noibat's episode, when I talk about that episode possibly, all you're going to see is a thumbnail of Noibat on Ash's shoulders. You know, because that would just be a cute, adorable thing that Noibat could do. So anyway, I am way over my time limit, but I had a lot to talk about. So this covers this particular episode of Pokemon XY. If you have any comments or things to discuss within the comment section, feel free to do so. Just to let you know, I'm not exactly surprised that Ash got Noibat. As you know from my previous videos, it was expected in that one Noibat, or the ending video that I made. I discussed all the reasons why Ash was going to get Noibat and why it made sense. So no surprises here. Eevee going to Serena is not much of a surprise, which I neglected to say that the reason why I don't think Eevee is in the shots of Serena's Pokemon along with Pancham and Braixen, the only reason why it's in the very ending of the opening is because it's not going to be caught really soon. I feel like it's going to be caught after the movie and maybe even a little bit longer. But what they wanted to illustrate is that it is foreshadowing of Eevee happening. And someone mentioned it, I don't know who it was, that it might mirror what happened with Pancham. I don't know if that's true, but I think it might be relevant to that. So anyway, I'm Dustin Benzel, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!